After the appointed 70-year captivity in Babylon, Cyrus returned the vessels of the holy place which Nebuchadnezzar had taken, and the kingdom of Judah returned with Zerubbabel to rebuild the house of God in Jerusalem. In the 7th month, beginning on Yom Teruah, they built altars to offer sacrifices and kept Sukkot according to the law. Zerubbabel, Joshua, and the Levites began to set forth the work for the temple in the 2nd month of the 2nd year, and they rejoiced in the laying of its foundation. But many of the elders who had seen Solomon's temple wept when they saw it. Haggai tells us the reason for their tears. After the rebuilding was completed many years later due to opposition, on the last day of Sukkot, the word of Yahuwah came to Haggai, saying, "Who is left among you that saw this house in her first glory? And how do you see it now? Is it not in your eyes in comparison of it as nothing? Yet now be strong, O Zerubbabel, saith Yahuwah, and be strong, O Joshua son of Josedek, the high priest, and be strong, all ye people of the land, saith Yahuwah, and work, for I am with you, saith Yahuwah of hosts. According to the covenant that I covenanted with you when you came out of Egypt, so my spirit remained among you. Fear ye not, for thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, yet once it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens and the earth, and the sea, and the desolation. And I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come. And I will fill this house with glory, saith Yahuwah of hosts. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, saith Yahuwah of hosts. The glory of this latter house shall be greater than of the former, saith Yahuwah of hosts. And in this place will I give peace. The splendid temple of Solomon had been an exceedingly magnificent glory, but the comparably modest temple of Zerubbabel would be an even greater glory, not necessarily in size or ornate adornment, but in the house's true purpose. Solomon's temple had been built by foreign slaves, with most of its riches being donated by David, Solomon, and Israel. Zerubbabel's temple was built by returning exiles, and the silver and gold being God's speaks of the Gentiles bringing their riches to Zerubbabel's temple. Ironically, Herod made extensive additions and modifications to the temple to the point that it became substantially larger than Solomon's temple. But since the Ark of the Covenant went missing after the Babylonian captivity and the 10 Commandments were inside the Ark, there would have been nothing in the Holy of Holies. The most vital part of it was missing. The room was awaiting the glory. Zerubbabel's temple was the temple that the angel of Yahuwah was to come to as prophesied in Malachi. We first see Yeshua at work in the temple after he was found there, astounding the doctors at 12 years old. Later we see him there toward the beginning of his ministry, casting out those making merchandise of it. And as the time drew near for the Jews to make their decision, we are told he was daily in the temple, healing and teaching. The glory of Zerubbabel's temple truly was greater, but it would never fill the house. Instead of the temple being a place for the Son of Man to rest his head, it became the place where the Jews tried to stone him for telling them that he was the Messiah they were waiting for. The Jews were waiting for a Messiah to come break Rome's rule off of them. But they had conveniently forgotten that no oppressor could be in their land unless they had forsaken God's covenant. The covenant itself provided the only way to ensure they would remain free. But before we even get to any of the commandments, God establishes himself as the sole deliverer and protector of Israel. He alone set Israel free from the bondage of Egypt. There was no foreign army involved. This is the core principle underpinning the covenant he made with them. Yet Rome's introduction to the land had come the same way that Syria's and Assyria's had come. When Asa, king of Judah, was threatened by Baasha, king of Israel, he turned to Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, for deliverance instead of God. When Ahaz, king of Judah, was threatened by Pekah and Rezin, kings of Israel and Syria, he called in Tilgath-Pileser, king of Assyria, to deliver him instead of God. And when the Seleucid king Demetrius threatened Judah Maccabee, he turned to the Romans instead of relying on God. In trusting in men and making flesh their arm, they had come under a curse, thereby occasioning their own captivities. Yet the leaders of Israel seem not to have recognized this in John 7. They surmised that those who believed Yeshua was the Messiah were cursed because they didn't know the law, which they as shepherds were responsible for teaching them, might I add. They were confident that if they had been in the days of their fathers, they would not have killed the prophets. But in truth, their hardness of heart had blinded them to the Elohim's compromise of giving them a king like the other nations, being a precursor to his coming to rule on the earth as the king of the Jews, while also being the type of king their fathers had asked for. Yahuwah had said many times that he was coming. He had given them all the information to make the connection, but they had missed it. In rejecting Yeshua as the Messiah and mocking him as king of the Jews, they were making the same decision that their fathers had made so many years ago. By rebelling against God's plan, they were ultimately rejecting his rule. But they could not see their own wickedness. For all that Herod had invested in the house for the king of the Jews, he tried to kill Yeshua as soon as he heard that one had been born king of the Jews. And the seed of Babylon, the Jews themselves, finished the job. They had no king but Caesar, they said, and God was going to render unto Caesar his due. The glory of Zerubbabel's temple was now the reproach of Herod's temple. And 40 years later, Herod's temple was destroyed, and Judah was scattered towards the four winds, with a sword drawn behind them.